I am a retired IRS forensic auditor, and when my daughter and her husband plotted to steal the $80,000 I baited them with, I coordinated with the bank and the police to ensure their felony was successful and immediately documented. They thought I was a senile old woman knitting in my chair, but I was simply waiting for my arrest warrant to be signed. Before continuing, write where you are from or what time it is. I heard my daughter giving her husband my card, PIN through the wall. The single worst moment of my life was not the betrayal, but the deep, satisfying smile that spread across my face as I listened. I was in the guest room of my own condo, pretending to be sound asleep. The walls were cheap and hollow. Every low word they exchanged in the master bedroom cut through the darkness like a knife. Their voices were tight, conspiratorial, and hungry. 8472, my daughter Veronica whispered. She sounded disgusted. That's what she wrote down. Her new PIN she can never remember. She's so stupid. I pulled the thin, worn blanket up to my chin. My blood ran cold, but my mind was utterly calm. You are sloppier than I ever imagined, Ronnie, I thought. Are you sure? Damon, my son-in-law, whispered back, his voice thick with nervous excitement. The floorboards creaked under his weight. This is it, babe. Tonight? Ronnie snapped, impatience replacing the fear. Yes, tonight. She's asleep. Just go. The ATM 2 blocks away. I could practically taste the panic radiating off them through the wall. There it is. The rush of pure, cold adrenaline hit me. Not the blinding heat of anger, but the clean, invigorating hum of an analyst closing a file. The one in the lobby, Ronnie continued, her voice dropping to a harsh hiss. Take it all out. There's over $80,000 on it. Pay off the damn car. $80,000. The number was a loud, clanging bell. We deserve this, she declared, sealing her fate with arrogant certainty. That old woman doesn't need as much as we do. I heard the sound of Damon grabbing his keys. The condo door clicked softly shut. I didn't move. I didn't call the police. I just lay there, staring at the ceiling, and smiled. The trap I had spent 2 weeks meticulously setting was finally, beautifully springing shut. I am Eleanor Hayes, and to my daughter, Veronica, I am Mildred, Mom, the retired, boring civil servant, the 68-year-old widow who lives on a meager pension. She sees my simple 2-bedroom condo. She sees my 10-year-old car. She sees my sensible clothes and my cautious habits, and she sees a problem to be solved, a resource to be tapped. Ronnie, on the other hand, is a wellness brand, a social media influencer who sells untested supplements and courses on how to manifest abundance. Her entire life is a performance of luxury, a careful Instagram feed of borrowed bags, leased cars, and champagne brunches she can't afford. Her husband, Damon, is her matching accessory, a personal trainer whose brand is built on nothing more than abs, cologne, and not a single original thought. They live in a constant, breathless state of financial panic, drowning in high-interest debt. They saw me as their personal, untouched bailout fund. What they forgot, what they were too self-absorbed to ever imagine, was who I really am. I wasn't just a city worker. For 40 years, I was a senior forensic auditor for the Internal Revenue Service. My job wasn't checking math. It was sniffing out fraud. I didn't look at ledgers. I looked for the lies they concealed. I dismantled complex tax evasion schemes set up by men who thought they were geniuses, following hidden money trails through offshore accounts and shell corporations. I built ironclad, bulletproof cases against arrogant, narcissistic millionaires. They never were smarter than the system. I'm not bad with money. I'm brilliant with it. My modest pension is just the tip of the iceberg, the small, visible part of my wealth. While they were busy leasing cars and buying $15 smoothies, My late husband and I lived on one salary and invested the other for 4 decades. My actual net worth, sitting quietly in accounts they have never even dreamed of, is in the seven-figure range. I live simply because that luxury, the ultimate luxury, makes you invisible, quiet, and secure. The flashy life, the one Ronnie and Damon chased, makes you sloppy. It makes you arrogant. It makes you desperate. It makes you, in a word, vulnerable. The setup for the disaster, of course, was their own. 6 months ago, Damon's brilliant investment in a friend's cryptocurrency scheme imploded, taking whatever savings they had with it. They were evicted from their trendy, overpriced apartment. They came to me weeping, a full-scale performance. Ronnie was in tears, her expensive waterproof mascara running. Damon looked humbled and broken, a role he played very poorly. "Mom," Ronnie sobbed, clutching my hand, her nails digging in. "We're going to be on the street. The kids. We have nowhere to go. Can we just stay with you just for a month or two? Just until we get back on our feet." I knew it was a lie. I knew a month or two meant forever. My analyst's brain screamed at me to say no, to write a check for a cheap motel and hand them a credit counselor's number. But the cold, curious part of my auditor's brain saw an opportunity, a chance to run a final domestic audit, to see up close just how deep their dysfunction, their greed, their arrogance truly went. I patted Ronnie's hand, my voice full of a warmth I absolutely did not feel. "Of course, darlings," I said. "Move in. Stay as long as you need. What's mine is yours." I moved my own things into the small guest room, my former sewing room, and let them have my spacious master suite. I wanted them to have the rope. I had no idea they would be stupid enough to immediately start hanging themselves with it. The temporary arrangement immediately became a permanent occupation. I, the mortgage-free owner of the condo, was instantly relegated to the status of cook, nanny, maid, and primary financial target. Their lives were a nauseating performance of self-proclaimed hustle that produced nothing of tangible value. Ronnie would spend hours filming herself in 200 yoga pants, talking earnestly to her phone about manifesting your truth and cutting out toxic, low-vibrational people from her life, a category I could see myself rapidly falling into. Then she'd emerge, exhausted from the grind, and demand to know why dinner wasn't ready. Damon, meanwhile, would spend his days at a high-end gym, taking selfies of his abs in the mirror for his brand. He'd come home smelling of sweat and expensive cologne, devour the meal I cooked, and then complain about my food. "Millie, my man," he'd say, using the disrespectful nickname as a power play. "You got to get with the program. This conventional chicken, full of toxins, it's messing with my gains. We need to be 100% organic, grass-fed, pasture-raised." I was the infrastructure keeping their entire charade afloat. I watched their two small, badly behaved children. I paid for the soaring utility bills, the high-speed internet, and the endless stream of subscription boxes. But the borrowing, the soft, insidious prelude to the hard crime, started within the first week. "Mom, I'm just so embarrassed," Ronnie would say, her face a mask of perfectly practiced actress-level distress. "Can you possibly cover the car payment on the BMW this month? Just this once. I'll pay you back double, I promise." The money was, of course, never returned. I was no longer their mother. I was their bank. Their soft, stupid, walking, talking bank. Then came the questions, subtle and probing. "So, Mom, that pension, is that all like liquid?" Ronnie asked one night, scrolling through her phone, her tone artificially casual. "You should really let me look at your portfolio, Millie," Damon said, puffing out his chest. "You're probably in some old-school boomer funds. No real growth. I could 10x that money in 6 months." They were like clumsy, starving wolves, circling what they thought was a slow, wounded, and very stupid caribou. They saw my simple life and assumed I was a fool. They saw my savings as their inheritance, just waiting for them to take it. Their greed was making them reckless. It was making them sloppy. I knew, with the certainty of an auditor staring at a doctored ledger, that it was only a matter of time before they moved from borrowing to outright criminal theft. I just needed to give them the right opportunity. I needed to set the perfectly baited, perfectly sprung trap. My entire financial fortress was secure, but I needed to know how deep the rot went. The scent of ginger and turmeric hit me the moment I opened the guest room door. Veronica glided into the hallway, holding a steaming mug, her face a mask of saccharine, exhausting sweetness. "Mom," she trilled, using a falsely bright octave that made my teeth hurt. "Can I get you some tea? That special ginger turmeric blend you like. You look a little tired." This was the charm offensive. The performance meant to lull the simple, forgetful old woman into a state of warm, trusting, pliable security before her husband, Damon, robbed me blind in the dead of night. I accepted the tea, forcing a weak, confused smile. My heart rate ticked up as I sipped the hot liquid. This sudden closeness felt more dangerous than their previous neglect. Ronnie sat with me in the living room for a full 20 minutes. A miracle since her phone was actually put away. She asked about my volunteer work, feigning wide-eyed, intense interest. "So, your volunteer work at the library? That sounds just fascinating," she said. "Mom, tell me more about the book sorting system. It must be so complex." Every word was designed to butter me up, smooth the path, and distract me from their imminent felony. Meanwhile, Damon was a ghost. He couldn't look me in the eye. He'd mumble a choked, "Morning, Millie," and bolt for the door at 7 a.m., his gaze fixed on his expensive sneakers. His palpable cowardice was the first flapping bright red flag, confirming the absolute authenticity of their plot. He desperately wanted the proceeds, but he didn't have the stomach for the crime. I observed this awkward, transparent, two-pronged psychological dance, his guilty avoidance and her fake cloying sweetness. They thought they were being clever. They had no idea I was using their performance as my crucial final preparation window. While Ronnie was busy complimenting my classic cardigans, and Damon was hiding at the gym, I was in my small, cramped guest room, methodically executing the most important audit of my life. The $80,000 account they had seen at the local community bank was real. It was my rainy day fund, my liquid emergency cash. It was the bait. My first act was defensive and absolute. I needed to firewall my real wealth. I used my anonymous burner phone. My first call was to Mr. Silas, my longtime financial advisor. "Silas," I said, my voice all business. "It's Eleanor Hayes. I need you to execute contingency Plan B on my main portfolio effective immediately." "Contingency B," he repeated, his voice instantly serious. "Our prearranged code." It meant I was under direct, immediate financial threat, possibly from family. "Understood, Eleanor. Consider it activated. I'll initiate the asset transfer to the Nightingale Trust immediately." Cut to action. Within an hour, Silas had electronically moved the entirety of my 7-figure range investment portfolio into a newly established anonymous irrevocable trust. It was a trust that Ronnie and Damon's names would never touch. The fortress walls were up. My second call was to my lawyer, Miss Quinn, a shark, the best estate lawyer in the city. "Sarah, it's Ellie. I need you to review the ownership documents for the condo I'm currently residing in, and I need to update my will urgently." We confirmed the condo was 100% in my name. They were legally just tenants at will. "Now the will," I said. "I want Ronnie and Damon explicitly disinherited. I want a specific clause citing potential financial malfeasance and emotional distress. Make it ironclad, Sarah. Make it permanent. Quinn didn't even pause. Consider it done, Ellie. I'll draft the new will and a formal 30-day eviction notice. Both will be ready to sign and notarize by Wednesday. I hung up, a cold knot in my stomach easing. The legal cost of this revenge was high, but the threat was being eliminated. My third move, the pension. I logged into my state retirement board portal. I rerouted my future monthly pension deposits. They would no longer go into my local community bank account, the one Ronnie was eyeing. Effective immediately, they would be deposited directly into my secure, firewalled brokerage account with Silas. The tap she was planning to open was being shut off at the source. In 2 weeks, when the next deposit was due, it would be a ghost moving to a place her greedy hands could never reach. My entire financial fortress was locked down, double-bolted, and reinforced with steel. All that was left was the bait. The trap needed a trigger. The desperation needed a nudge. About a week ago, I had accidentally let a bank statement slip out of my purse and onto the kitchen counter. It wasn't my real portfolio statement, of course. This was just my rainy day checking account, into which I had transferred a very specific, very tempting sum. I came back from the bathroom. The statement was exactly where I'd left it. But Ronnie, who had been in the kitchen getting water, was standing very, very still, her back to me. Her breath had hitched. I saw her sharp, greedy eyes see the balance. 81 times 124 37s. She looked away quickly when she heard me, her smile a little too bright. "Oh, Mom, there you are. I was just admiring the view." But I saw it. The hunger, the calculation, the plan already forming behind her eyes. The bait was in the water. I just needed the final confirmation, the plan, and the pin. That night, I moved to the door of my guest room, leaving the door cracked just slightly. My breathing was deep and even, the performance of sleep. But I was really listening. A lifetime of sniffing out fraud had trained me to hear the smallest whisper. I heard them in the kitchen, their voices low, urgent, conspiratorial. "Babe, are you sure?" Damon's voice was nervous, weak. 80 grand just sitting there in a checking account. "I saw it with my own eyes, Reg," Ronnie hissed, her voice sharp and electric with excitement. "She probably forgot it even exists. She's so old she doesn't even use online banking." A complete fabrication, of course. I managed my 7-figure range portfolio online daily. But it was the narrative she needed. We could turn that into millions. "But how do we?" Damon stammered. "We can't just ask her. She's stingy." "We don't ask, you idiot," Ronnie snapped, her patience gone. "We take it." She didn't know I was watching them seal their fate in the cheap darkness of my condo. Cliffhanger. She didn't know the most important piece of evidence was already pointing at her. "She's old," Veronica repeated in the darkness, her voice dripping with contempt. "She's forgetful. I guarantee she has the pin written down somewhere in her wallet on a piece of paper. You know, Mom's new pin, 8472, something stupid like that. She's naive. She trusts us." There it was. The arrogance. The pure, unadulterated, fatal assumption of my incompetence. "I'll get the pin," Ronnie whispered, her voice full of chilling confidence. "I'll find it tomorrow. And then, babe, you're going to go to an ATM late at night. The one in the lobby of that 24-hour office building. The one with no security guard." The location was logged. My mind, the auditor's mind, instantly matched the location to the high-alert police contact I would need. "You are going to drain that account. Every last cent. We'll wire it to an offshore crypto wallet before she even knows it's gone. Pay off the car. Pay off my cards. We can finally breathe." Damon whispered his last flicker of a conscience. Isn't that, isn't that stealing, babe? It's not stealing, you fool, she snapped. It's a transfer, a proactive inheritance taken a little early. She's my mother. It's my money, practically. That old woman doesn't need as much as we do. She just sits here all day knitting. It's our duty to put that money to good use. I crept back to my cot. My jaw was locked. The low, cold rhythm of my heart was the auditor's calm. I had my case. I had indisputable confirmation of intent to commit a felony. All I needed was to set the trap and bait it perfectly. The 6 days following that whispered conspiracy were a masterclass in performative guilty behavior. They were so blinded by their greed that they had no idea their every move was a loud, clanging bell, signaling their intentions. Damon, the designated bagman, was the most pathetic. His normal in-your-face masculinity had completely flipped. He, a man who normally paraded around shirtless after his workouts, now moved like a guilty, shuffling ghost. He made endless transparent excuses to be out of the house, overwhelmed with new clients who never seemed to pay on time. Ronnie, the better liar, went into a full charm offensive. She doubled down on the forced sweetness. "Mom," she trilled, finding me reading, "you must be so achy from sitting all day. Let me get you that electric heating pad." I watched her through the lens of my professional amusement. They thought I was oblivious, happy to be taken care of. They had no idea I was the one setting the trap. I made a risky move. I had quietly installed a tiny, wide-angle nanny cam on the living room bookshelf. I told them it was a new air freshener that emitted cleansing ions. They had believed me. I watched the live feed on my burner phone, waiting for her to make her move. I needed the image of her snooping. Ms. Quinn called late that afternoon. "Ellie, the will is ready," explicitly disinheriting both of them, "and the eviction notice is signed. We are ready to file the paperwork immediately upon your command." I signed the digital documents on my laptop. A cost, paid in emotional weariness, settled over me. I was legally severing my own family ties. The pin itself was the easiest, most satisfying part of the plan. I had to deliver it in a way that perfectly confirmed their narrative of me: frail, naive, and forgetful. The performance began that afternoon. I accidentally left my purse, that ugly old brown one Ronnie despised, on the living room sofa. The main zipper was slightly open. Tucked inside the wallet, just visible, was the debit card for the $80,000 community bank account. I went to my room, claiming I needed to lie down for my nap. "My back is just aching today," I sighed to Ronnie, who nodded with dismissive, impatient sympathy. I didn't nap. I listened. 10 long, silent, excruciating minutes passed. Then creak. The sound of the specific loose floorboard in the living room, right in front of the sofa. Then silence. A heavy, listening silence. Then the faint, almost imperceptible zip-zip of my purse zipper being slowly, stealthily opened. Gotcha, I thought. The tiny nanny cam was recording every second. I gave her a full 5 minutes to snoop. She closed the zipper, and the floorboard creaked again. She had seen the card. She probably snapped a furtive photo of the card number and expiration date. But she didn't have the PIN, not yet. Phase 2 required more theater. The next morning, I made a great show of being flustered and panicked in the kitchen while Ronnie made her complicated green smoothie. "Oh goodness, oh dear," I muttered loudly, patting my pockets. My memory. It's just like a sieve these days. An absolute sieve. I fumbled with my purse, my hands trembling slightly for effect. "Veronica, dear," I called, my voice full of practiced mounting confusion. "I just can't seem to remember the PIN number for this new bank card. The bank made me change it. And now, poof, it's just gone from my head." Ronnie glided into the kitchen, her eyes glittering with predatory, poorly concealed excitement. She was so close to the money she could practically taste it. "Oh, Mom," she said, her voice dripping with that fake, cloying concern. "That's so frustrating. Don't you write it down somewhere? You really should at your age." I know I shouldn't," I whispered, leaning in as if sharing a terribly guilty, scandalous secret. I fumbled in a hidden zippered pocket of my wallet, a pocket I knew she hadn't dared to explore in her quick search. I pulled out a small, crumpled piece of yellow sticky note. "Ah, here it is," I said, my voice full of breathless, profound relief. "Thank heavens. 8472. I tucked the piece of paper with the PIN AI472 written on it right back into my wallet, in the same slot as the debit card, in plain, obvious sight. "Who would ever look in my old purse?" I said, patting the wallet with a smile of pure senile satisfaction. I then accidentally forgot my purse on the living room sofa again when I went to take my nap. I knew, with the absolute 100% certainty of an auditor who has just handed a marked bill to a corrupt politician, that by 3 p.m. that day, Veronica had the card number, the expiration date, the security code, and the PIN. The trap was set. The bait was taken. Cliffhanger. Now I had to make sure the police would be there to greet the thief. My plan wasn't just to stop them. That was too simple, too defensive. They would just deny, lie, claim it was a misunderstanding, and my life in this condo would become an even more unbearable passive-aggressive hell. I was an auditor. My goal was to prove the fraud, to catch them red-handed in a way that was public, undeniable, and immediately catastrophic for them. I needed them to succeed in taking the money, just for a second, just long enough for the system to catch them. As a retired senior IRS auditor, I still had connections. I still had lunch once a month with retired Chief Miller, the feared former head of the IRS's Criminal Investigation Division. And Miller, as it happens, plays poker every Thursday night with the city's Chief Russo. I made 2 calls. These were the important ones. First, I went to see Miss Chavez, the manager of my small local Capital Bank branch. "Maria," I said, sitting in her small office. "It's Eleanor Hayes. I have a sensitive and rather unusual situation." I laid out the facts, not the family drama. I have reason to believe on good authority that a fraudulent attempt will be made to withdraw the entire contents of my checking account, the high-yield one ending in 44052, soon and in the middle of the night, via an ATM. Ms. Chavez was horrified. "Mrs. Hayes, that's terrible. We'll lock it down immediately. We'll put a freeze on it, require in-person photo ID verification." "No," I interrupted gently but firmly. "That's not what I want, Maria. I want the opposite." She stared at me, confused. "I want you to authorize the withdrawal," I said. "Mildred, I don't understand. You want us to?" "I am a retired federal auditor, Maria. I am building a case for criminal fraud. To do that, I need the act to be completed. I need them to have the money in their hands, even for just a moment. I need the transaction to be successful to prove unequivocally their intent to steal, not just their intent to try. So here's what I need from you," I continued, my voice low. "I need you to work with your head of security. I need you to put a high-velocity silent fraud alert on my account. An alert that, when triggered by a large after-hours ATM withdrawal, approves the transaction, but simultaneously in the same microsecond sends a direct, high-priority automated dispatch to the 911 call center and the local police precinct. Not just a text to me, a direct dispatch flagging a felony fraud in progress at that specific ATM location." Ms. Chavez looked at me, her eyes wide, a slow smile of dawning, impressed understanding spreading across her face. "Mrs. Hayes, that's diabolical and brilliant. It's just an audit, Maria, I said. A very aggressive one. Can you do it? She paused. That's highly unusual. I'll have to get authorization from corporate security. Client-assisted fraud prevention. But yes, Millie, for you, I can get that set up. I'll need your written notarized authorization, of course. It will be on your desk in an hour, I promised. My second call was to my old friend, retired Chief Miller. Frank, I said, getting right to the point. It's Ellie. I need a small favor. I have a strong IRS audit-level suspicion that a person of interest will be making a highly fraudulent, large-volume withdrawal from the ATM at the Capital Bank on Elm Street sometime in the next few nights, probably between 2 and 4 a.m. Miller, who knows my gut, didn't even laugh. How strong a suspicion, Millie? Pretty sure strong, or bet your pension strong. IRS audit-level ironclad strong, Frank, I said. That's all I need to know, he said. His voice cut through the phone line. I'm playing poker with Chief Russo tonight. I'll casually suggest he might want to increase marked patrol presence in that area. Citing, say, a recent unverified string of late-night ATM skimming reports. He'll understand. He'll probably have a car sitting right across the street just doing paperwork, I finished, a surge of cold triumph running through me. The trap was now fully, beautifully, meticulously set. The bank was authorized to approve the theft. The bank was also primed to send an immediate automated high-priority police dispatch after the theft was approved. And the police would just happen to be patrolling that exact block, waiting for the call. All that was left was for the greedy wolf to walk into the spotlight. The next 6 days felt like trying to slow my own breathing inside a collapsing tunnel. Damon and Veronica were reaching a breaking point. Their minimal caution was finally, fatally overriding their financial desperation. Ronnie, however, tried one last desperate, non-criminal move to apply pressure. She cornered me in the kitchen after dinner. Mom, about the kids' school fees. They are due in a week, and frankly, this conventional food budget is costing me more than I thought. She gave me the look, the one that said I am managing your money poorly, and I am embarrassed to tell you I need more. I know you just rerouted your pension, she added, a subtle probe to see if I noticed her lie. But if you could just cover the fee for the private yoga coaching certification, $900? It's an investment in my brand. I will pay you back triple. I shook my head slowly, letting my eyes drop. My stomach tightened. I wish I could, dear. But I had to pay a huge fee recently for that new legal trust my husband and I set up years ago. It's draining my liquid cash. You know, just legal mumbo-jumbo. I'm quite depleted right now. She stared at me, her smile freezing. A legal trust. That was a new piece of information I hadn't let slip before. It planted a seed of doubt. Maybe I wasn't just hoarding cash. Maybe it was all legally tied up. It was a lie that risked my dignity, pretending to be financially vulnerable. But it bought me silence. Ronnie's face shifted from sweet concern to frustrated contempt. She realized the small borrowing avenue was closed. She had to take the $80,000. I went to my room at 9 p.m. as usual, complaining of a migraine from the stress of the day. I turned off my light and lay in the darkness. I wasn't just pretending to be asleep. I was conducting live surveillance. 1 a.m., quiet. 2 a.m., still quiet. My nerves began to fray just slightly. Were they chickening out? 1:50 a.m.? I heard it. The faint, stealthy creak of their bedroom door opening. Footsteps tiptoeing down the hall. Whispers. I crept from my bed, my bare feet silent on the cheap carpet. I pressed my ear against the hollow wood of my door. Okay, she's definitely 100% asleep, Ronnie whispered. I checked on her 10 minutes ago. She was snoring. I wasn't, I thought, but the too loud breathing performance had worked. You have the card? You have the pin? Yeah. Yeah, I got it, Damon's voice replied. He sounded nervous, shaky. His bravado was clearly failing him in the face of the actual criminal act. Babe, are you sure about this right now? Taking it all at 3:00 a.m. It feels really risky, Ronnie. Don't be a coward, Damon, Ronnie snapped, her voice pure, cold steel, the dominant partner asserting her will. It's perfect because it's 3 a.m. that it's perfect. No witnesses. The ATM in the lobby of that 24-hour office building, the one on Elm Street, the one with no security guard. It's 2 blocks away. You're in, you're out. You drain the account. Max withdrawal transaction after transaction until it's empty or the card stops. Simple. But $80,000 from one ATM. Will it even let me? Damon was clearly looking for a technical failure, any out to save him from his own lack of spine. The daily withdrawal limit is probably high on that account. It's a premium checking or something. Ronnie theorized incorrectly but with utter confidence. Just take what you can. Take it all. We deserve this, Damon. All our hard work, our branding. This is our breakthrough, our manifestation. The spiritual bypassing arrogance of it. That old woman, she continued, her voice dropping to a hiss of pure contempt, doesn't need as much money as we do. She just sits here all day knitting. It's waste. It's our duty to put that money to good, productive use. It's not stealing, you fool, she snapped, patience gone. It's a transfer, a proactive inheritance taken a little early. Now go. Be quick and text me the second it's done. I'll be waiting. Okay, Reggie said, his voice weak, resigned, utterly defeated. Okay, babe. For us. I heard the jingle of his keys. I heard the front door of the apartment click softly, stealthily shut. I stood there in the darkness, my hand pressed over my mouth, trying to stifle my laughter at the sheer amateurish stupidity of it. Damon was gone. He was walking right now to the ATM, to my trap. A thief sent by his wife, walking with purpose towards his own destruction. Cliffhanger. A distant siren wailed once, then went quiet. I crept back from the door. The adrenaline was singing in my veins, a cold, clean, invigorating hum. The weeks of simmering humiliation evaporated. It was replaced by the profound, almost zen-like calm of a perfectly executed multi-stage audit. The system was working. Every check, every balance, every contingency I had put in place was clicking one by one into its designated slot. Silas had secured my real assets, impenetrable, untouchable. Ms. Quinn had updated my will, disinheriting them, and had the eviction notice ready to file. My pension was rerouted, a ghost moving to a new secure account. Ms. Chavez had flagged the account, authorized the approval of the withdrawal, and linked it directly to the 911 dispatch. Retired Chief Miller had casually suggested increased patrols to Chief Russo. Somewhere out there in the darkness, a marked police car was likely at this very moment, sitting quietly, patiently, just around the corner from the Elm Street Bank branch, doing paperwork, just waiting for the signal. And Damon, poor, stupid, weak-willed Damon. He thought he was a predator, heading out into the dark to steal from a sleeping, helpless old sheep. He had no idea he was the sheep, a sacrificial lamb walking right into the shepherd's trap. I walked back to my small, uncomfortable cot. I pulled back the thin, worn blanket. I lay down. I closed my eyes. The justice about to be served was entirely their design. I was not there, of course. I was sound asleep, the most peaceful sleep I'd had in 6 months. But based on the detailed, almost gleeful police report that Miss Quinn later forwarded to me, a report she got from Chief Russo himself, I can picture the scene in all its pathetic cinematic glory. 3:17 a.m. The 24-hour ATM vestibule at the Capital Bank branch, Elm Street. The streets were empty, silent, bathed in the sickly, flickering yellow glow of the streetlights. Damon arrived. He was wearing a dark hoodie, the hood pulled up, his face shadowed. A guilty man trying badly to look inconspicuous, which only made him look infinitely more suspicious. He probably jogged the 2 blocks to look like he was just out for a late-night run. He glanced nervously up and down the empty street. Clear. He swiped my debit card, my card, to get into the glass-walled vestibule. Click. The door unlocked. Trigger 1. The bank's high-level security system, flagged by Ms. Chavez, instantly logged the non-standard 3:00 a.m. entry linked to my high-alert police dispatch-linked account. A silent alarm was tripped. Damon walked up to the ATM. He was probably sweating now despite the cold. The adrenaline of the crime made his hands shake. He inserted my card. He took a deep breath. He typed in the PIN, 8472. The machine whirred, a moment of agonizing tension. The screen flashed. Welcome, Eleanor Hayes. Please select a transaction. He let out a shaky, triumphant sigh of relief. He's in. It was that easy. The old woman was a fool. Ronnie was a genius. They were rich. He hit the check balance button first, as Ronnie instructed. The screen flashed. Checking account, 4452. Available balance, $80, $124.50. His eyes probably bugged out of his head. The sheer intoxicating reality of it, right there in glowing green numbers. The debt paid off. Ronnie's happiness. All of it just a few button presses away. His hands were trembling with greed and excitement now. He hit withdrawal, checking, other amount. He typed in the maximum the machine would allow, $1,000. The machine whirred, thought, click, clack, and then, transaction canceled. Please contact your bank for assistance. Damon frowned. What the? Just a glitch. He tried again. $500. Transaction canceled. Your card has been temporarily locked due to suspicious activity. No, 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 he muttered, panic rising. He hit cancel. The machine whirred again, a different sound, a mechanical grinding sound, and it ate his card. Card retained. Please contact your bank. He was frantic now. He started banging his big muscular fist on the machine. Come on, give it back, you piece of... He was so focused on the machine, so consumed by rage and panic, that he didn't hear the whoop-whoop of the approaching siren until it was too late. He spun around, his eyes wide with terror, and his world ended. Red and blue lights filled the small glass vestibule, painting his terrified, sweaty face in strobing, nightmarish colors. A police car, the one that just happened to be patrolling this exact block, pulled up right behind his leased SUV, blocking him in. 2 officers got out, their movements calm, practiced, their hands on their holsters. They had received the high-velocity fraud alert, felony in progress dispatch, from the bank security hub the second his first transaction was denied. He was trapped, caught, red-handed at 3:19 a.m. The trap, my beautiful, perfect, multi-stage, audibly witnessed, and now police-documented trap, had sprung. I was already awake when Ronnie's phone buzzed. The sound at 3:20 a.m. was a dull buzz thump through the wall, like an angry trapped wasp. I heard Ronnie stir, a sleepy, annoyed murmur. What, Damon? Did you get it? Is it done? I heard her tap her phone screen. Then silence. A thick, heavy, absolute silence that lasted for maybe 10 long, beautiful, agonizing seconds. Then came the sound I had been waiting for. It wasn't a shout. It was a low, strangled, "Oh no." Then a frantic rustling of sheets, a thud as her bare feet hit the cold hardwood floor. No, 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 no. Her voice escalated from a horrified, disbelieving whisper to a full-blown, hysterical shriek. Damon, what did you do? What did you do? She was reading the text. The frantic, panicked one phone call text from the back of the police car. The text I pictured in my head as I drifted off to sleep. The text that was the true, final, beautiful punchline to my entire operation. Babe, I'm at the bank. The ATM. The card. It got stuck. The cops are here. They're arresting me. Babe, your mom. She must have known. She knew everything. They said the account was flagged. They said she flagged it. Babe, what's going on? What do I do? I smiled and went back to sleep. I was ready for the morning. The sound through the wall was not a scream. It was a detonation. I heard Veronica scream again. It was a sound of pure, unadulterated, cornered rat panic. She was running around their room, grabbing clothes and her laptop. The sounds were frantic, chaotic. Her phone buzzed again. Bup, 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 and then a loud thump, thump, thump. She was at my door, hammering on it with both fists, her blows desperate. Mom, wake up! Wake up right now! Something's happened. I took a slow, deep, satisfying breath. I let her knock again. Let the panic build. Let her soak in the terror of her own consequences. Thump, thump, thump. Mom, wake up! It's an emergency. I finally slowly climbed out of my cot. I put on my old worn flannel bathrobe. I shuffled to the door, putting on the perfect award-winning performance of a confused, sleepy, slightly deaf, harmless old woman. I opened the door, rubbing my eyes. What? Veronica, honey, what's wrong? Is it a fire? Her face was a mask of pure primal terror. Mascara was already running down her cheeks from hysterical tears. Her hair, usually so perfectly styled, was wild. She was wearing a tiny, expensive-looking silk pajama set, and she was trembling, either from cold or sheer unadulterated panic. It's Damon, she shrieked, her voice a raw, ragged sound. He went to the ATM just to get some cash and they're arresting him. The bank, they said the card was stolen. I put my hand to my chest, my face a picture of pure grandmotherly shock and confusion. Stolen? Oh, heavens. Stolen by who? Did they catch the thief? No, Mom, you don't understand, she sobbed, grabbing my arm, her nails digging into my thin robe. He was using your card, the one from your purse. He must have grabbed it by mistake. You know, in the dark they look alike. The lie was so pathetic, so desperate, so insulting to my intelligence, that I almost felt a flicker of pity for her. Almost. My card, I said, feigning total bewildered confusion. My new card. The one from the community bank? The one with the PIN 8472? Her face went white. Absolutely, positively, bloodlessly white. Her hand dropped from my arm. She knew in that single devastating instant that I knew. Oh dear, I said, my voice full of dawning, horrified realization, shaking my head sadly. Oh, Veronica, that card. I told the bank that card was stolen yesterday afternoon. You what? She whispered the word, a tiny, dead puff of air. Yes, I said, my voice full of tragic, elderly regret. When I couldn't find my purse yesterday afternoon, the one I'd forgotten on the living room table for a few hours, I just panicked. I assumed it was stolen, maybe by a delivery person. I called Maria, my nice manager at the bank, immediately. I told her to lock it down, to flag it, to put an alert on it, to call the police if anyone tried to use it, especially at an ATM. I was just so worried about my $80,000. I looked her dead in the eye, my confusion and frailty evaporating like morning mist, replaced by the cold, hard, flat, analytical gaze of an IRS auditor who had just found the hidden fraudulent ledger. Imagine my surprise, I said, my voice dropping to a low, icy conversational tone, when the person who used it was Damon. At 3:19 a.m., trying to withdraw what was it? Oh, yes, $80,000. Her world, her lies, her entire future. It all collapsed right there in the dimly lit hallway of my condo. She just stared at me, her mouth open. The truth, in all its devastating, catastrophic, perfectly sprung trap glory, was finally revealed. She hadn't just been caught, she had been hunted. And the simple old woman she'd planned to fleece was the hunter. Veronica just stared at me, her face a mask of utter silent ruin. The high-pitched wail of her panic had died in her throat, replaced by the stunned, suffocating silence of a person who had just watched her entire life detonate in front of her. You knew, she whispered. The accusation was a broken, breathless, disbelieving thing. You set him up. I'm a forensic accountant, Veronica, I said. My voice was no longer frail, no longer confused. It was the voice I used in depositions, cold, clear, final. My job for 40 years was to find the lie. And you two? You're the sloppiest, most arrogant, most predictable liars I've ever had the misfortune of auditing. You let him, she stammered, her mind fumbling, trying to process the scale of her miscalculation. You let him go. You let them arrest him? Your own family? He's a grown man, Veronica, I replied, turning away from her, walking calmly into my kitchen, in my condo. I filled the kettle with water. I took down my favorite mug. He's also a thief. He made a choice. He conspired with you to steal my life savings in the middle of the night. Actions, as you wellness people are so fond of saying, have consequences. I simply provided an environment for those consequences to be documented. Veronica followed me, stumbling, her movements jerky. Her designer pajamas were rumpled, her face a mess of tears and dawning cold terror. But what about me? What about the money, the bills, the car, the pension? She was still, even now, even in the face of criminal charges and total ruin, thinking about the money. The arrogance was truly breathtaking. I turned, kettle in hand, and looked at this grasping, greedy, broken woman who had betrayed my trust and insulted my intelligence at every turn. The pension, I said, my voice light, almost amused. Oh, that. Yes, I rerouted all my pension deposits last week. It's no longer being deposited into any account you have access to or even knowledge of. It's now in a secure trust account with my financial advisor, along with the rest of my plenty of money. The bank, as I call it, Veronica, is permanently closed. I set the kettle on the stove and turned on the blue flame. As for your bills, I continued, my voice conversational, and your car and your expensive lifestyle. Well, as you so clearly pointed out in your whispered late-night financial planning session, I'm just an old woman who doesn't need as much as you do. So, I'm sure you, a brilliant brand consultant, and Damon, a high-end personal trainer, will have no trouble at all managing on your own. Assuming, of course, I added as a thoughtful afterthought, he makes bail, attempted grand theft, conspiracy to commit financial elder abuse. The bail is probably going to be set quite high, and I highly doubt they'll accept a check from a maxed-out credit card. She let out another strangled sob. You set us up. You tricked us. No, dear, I said, pulling a simple tea bag from the canister. I didn't. I just documented your intentions. I audited your characters and found them severely lacking. I put the proper internal controls in place to protect my assets, as any good analyst would. You and Damon are the ones who actively, consciously chose to commit felony fraud. I just made sure you did it in front of a live, informed, heavily armed audience. I looked at her, and I felt nothing. No pity, no remorse, no anger even, just the quiet, clean, profound satisfaction of a complex file, finally, neatly, correctly closed. The kettle began to whistle. "Now, if you'll excuse me," I said, turning my back on her. "I'm going to have my tea. I believe you have a rather urgent phone call to make." "To a bail bondsman, I suspect," I added, turning back to face her one last time, my voice firm, final, and utterly devoid of warmth. "I'd like you to pack your things, all of them, yours, Damon's, the children's. I'm having the locks on my condo changed at 9 a.m. sharp. My lawyer, Ms. Quinn, will be here with a police escort to oversee your removal, just to ensure the finality of it." The eviction hit her harder than the arrest. Her mouth opened in a silent gasp of financial ruin. You're kicking us out," she whispered, her voice full of disbelief. "Us? Your family? The children?" "You," I said, my voice turning to ice, "are tenants at will who have just attempted to defraud the landlord. And you are not my family. Not anymore. You are just a very, very bad investment, a non-performing asset. And I, as a prudent financial analyst, am cutting my losses." The auditor, the old woman, the frail retiree, had officially and finally closed the case. I left her there, collapsing in the hallway, and went to my real bedroom, the master suite, which I had reclaimed as soon as they left for their party. I sat in my favorite armchair by the window, watching the first faint gray light of dawn begin to break over the city. The police came, as I knew they would. Around 5 a.m., they had questions for me. I was ready. I showed them the nanny cam footage of Veronica snooping in my purse. I played them the audio recording of the conspiracy. My case was ironclad. They took Veronica in her silk pajamas and handcuffs for questioning as a co-conspirator. It was all very quiet, very professional. By 9:05 a.m., Veronica and a bailed-out, humiliated, trembling Damon were frantically, silently throwing their designer junk into trash bags. They worked under the watchful, bored eyes of two uniformed police officers. Ms. Quinn, my lawyer, was checking items off an inventory list. She didn't speak a word to them, simply observed their downfall with the grim satisfaction of a legal professional. Damon's sculpted, oiled muscles seemed to fail him. He was a broken shell, moving heavy boxes, unable to meet the cold, hard stare of the police or the professional indifference of Miss Quinn. Ronnie was sobbing silently into the sleeve of her expensive silk pajamas, the contrast between her brand and her reality devastatingly complete. I watched from the door of the guest room, now reclaimed as my sewing room. My eyes were dry, my breathing shallow. The emotional cost of watching my daughter destroy herself was undeniable, but the necessity of the audit was absolute. I saw Veronica stop by the sofa, looking at the spot where she found the pin. It was an echo image, the same action from a week ago, but now the context was ruined. She knew she had done this to herself. By noon, they were gone. The condo was empty. The locks were changed. I stood in the middle of my silent, empty living room, and I knew the real work had just begun. I stood in the middle of my living room, my real living room, now blissfully quiet. The space was filled with my things, my peace. I made myself another cup of tea. I sat in my favorite armchair, looked out the window at the small, peaceful park, and I checked my brokerage account online. The 7-figure range balance was secure. My pension, safe in its new hidden account, was pending. I smiled. The financial analyst had successfully restructured her portfolio, eliminated the non-performing, highly toxic assets, and protected her bottom line. Lesson delivered. Case closed. Later that afternoon, Ms. Quinn called to confirm the final legal details. "The attempted felony fraud gives us absolute leverage, Eleanor," Ms. Quinn stated. "The disinheritance is ironclad. We are filing for immediate protection orders. The children, however, a relative will be notified to take temporary custody. The state will not leave them with two people facing these charges. The news hit me, a small, cold price I hadn't fully calculated. I had protected my money, but the fallout was generational. A clean audit still means loss. I looked at the small, quiet park outside my window. The piece was purchased at a high price, the end of a relationship, the end of a lie. I had wanted justice, boundaries, and protection. I received all three. I had been told that revenge was a dish best served cold. They had forgotten I was an auditor. I didn't serve dishes. I provided an environment for consequences. I closed my laptop. I didn't need to check the balance again. I knew it was safe. I knew the truth. I settled back into my favorite chair, finally in my own home, in my own space. This, I thought to myself, finally letting the quiet, profound satisfaction wash over me, is what you call a high-yield return on investment. The quiet of the condo was no longer the silence of a victim, but the silence of a fortress. The final audit was complete. If this story resonated with you, leave a like and consider subscribing. You can also drop any comment below, even just one word. Maybe tell me where you're watching from, or what time it is right now. Sometimes one word is enough to say you were here.